The Euro Yard is back and it's time to talk about a new year. We have watched every single Eurovision Song Contest, well, except for the two that were lost or they weren't taped or whatever. But guess what? 1967 was not one of them. We've watched all 17 songs from the contest, the same as we do every year. We re-ranked them and we can talk about what we liked, what we didn't, and where each country belonged in the rankings. So to do that, we have a scoring system that we're reminding you of here. We score on a 1,000 point scale, whereas an average song gets 500 points and no song has ever gotten 1,000 because it would require an impossible level of perfection. So perfect that I don't even think I would recognize it if I heard it. On the other end, no song has ever gotten 0 because any song that was even just heavily breathing into a microphone for 3 minutes could probably still manage 60 points if it were staged well. But did the song land where it should have back in 1967? The ESC Deservometer is here to set matters straight. Each song will receive its judgment, and it can have one of 5 outcomes, ranging from very overrated to very underrated to getting exactly the fate that it deserved. Finally, we have our Euroyard all-time scoreboard, and the one we ended on from 1966 is now on the screen with me. After every contest, we award points to the top 10 entries, with the best song getting 12, 10, then 8, and on down the list. Italy is hanging on to first place for the moment, but that is under threat this year. See how it plays out because at the end of the video, we will update this for 1967. The housekeeping business is over, so let's first set the stage with some notes on the 1967 contest. It was the first one ever hosted in Austria, with the second coming in 2015, almost 5 decades later, and the third in 2026. All 3 took place in Vienna. It occurred on Saturday, the 8th of April, 1967. This was the 12th Eurovision Song Contest, and it was the first to ever take place in the month of April. Up until this point, the vast majority had been in March, except for the first one, which was in May. Today, you would exclusively see them in May, but it won't be until the mid-1980s that that becomes a regular thing. 17 countries participated in this contest. The few prior had 18, but Denmark dropped out in 1967, as we mentioned in the last video, and we won't see them again for over a decade. The national broadcaster simply had no interest, but that will change, just not yet. Finally, this was the last Eurovision Song Contest to be broadcast in black and white. When the UK ends up hosting again in 1968, it's in color. That contest in 1968 is one of my favorites, in addition to being controversial and eventful, so I'm looking forward to talking about it, but we have to get through this one first. So why don't we attack these rankings? And starting at number 17, our last place song for 1967, we had the Dutch song, Ring a Ding by Therese Steinmetz. Ironically, this song also went first in the contest running order while going first here, which is not where you want to be. Now, I'm sure there were all lovely people who were involved with this song, but I have to be honest with you. It wasn't exactly like Ring-a-Ding Girl by Ronnie Carroll of the UK in 1962, but it treaded in some similar territory. Right off the bat, I didn't get a whole lot of originality. This tied for 10th on our card in overall impression, so it's not like I hated it per se. And it was tied for 5th in engagement, so at least it was upbeat and interesting. Or sometimes high engagement can mean a song where there's a lot of emotion put into it. However, where this song failed was in vocals and composition. We had Steinmetz near the bottom on vocals and at the bottom in composition as the lyrics got very repetitive, and again, it had a few similarities to a song we've already heard. Now, I will say as we get further into it, we had a few massive disagreements with the juries in 1967. However, not with this one. This was tied for 14th at the contest in Vienna, so back to the main stage now is the ESC Deservometer. In what should not be a surprise, it holds that the juries got this one about right. Up to 16th, and our second to last song here is Austria with their host entry, Warum es 100.000 Sterne gibt, which is by Peter Horton. That, by the way, means why are there 100,000 stars in German? Pretty steep drop here for the host, going from first on our rankings in 1966 to almost last in 1967. Guess they didn't want to host again. I do not think this Austrian song was the worst at anything, but I think it was nearly the worst at everything. There was no single thing that I liked, and it only barely finished ahead of the Netherlands because the Dutch song got a slightly lower vocal score and a much worse composition score. It wasn't my least favorite, but I didn't care for it. It wasn't the most dull, but it was dull. It didn't have the worst composition, but I wasn't blown away. That's how you end up in 16th. So, what does the ESC Deservometer think? Well, seeing as Austria also finished in that tie for 14th in 1967, the meter says that the juries also got this one about right. On to number 15, and this time it's Switzerland. The song was performed by Geraldine, and her song was Quel cœur vas-tu briser, or Whose Heart Will You Break? Well, unfortunately, I don't know if my heart broke listening to this, but my ears sure didn't like it. Unlike the Austrian song, I think this song had one redeeming quality, and I thought it was one of the best songs in the contest lyrically. However, that did not save it. The song was uninteresting, which is almost as cruel of a fate as you can suffer at Eurovision. The worst fate is to be bad, but not bad enough to be so bad it's good. Thankfully, none of those songs get there in 1967. As for the ESC Deservometer, what does it think of this song that came in last place in 1967? Well, not much of a mystery here. It agrees with the song's placement. That's 3 down now, and we move on to 14th place, which is Yugoslavia this year. The song was Uz Rože Sveta, or All the Flowers in the World, in Slovenian, performed by Lado Leskovar. I didn't hate the vocals at all, and it was an okay composition, especially in terms of the lyrics. The performance was a little overwrought. I guess that's a good word for it. It's strange, though, because even though I thought the song was that way, I still found it to be inherently dull. And I remember saying to myself, yeah, I've heard this before. Now, the song that we had in first, that gave me something exciting. This gave me decent vocals and not a whole lot else. At this point, we consult the ESC Deservometer as this song finished in a tie for 8th at the contest. The Oracle says that this song, for being a little too bland on its own, was a little bit overrated. Yugoslavia has done better. On to 13th on our list, getting closer to our top 10, but not quite there yet. We head to Sweden next. This was Östen Warnerbring's song Som en Dröm, which translates in English to Like a Dream. I wouldn't say this was dreamy for me, but at least it wasn't a nightmare, so at least I have that going for me. I actually kinda liked it, maybe on a marginal level, because it came in 9th in the overall impression score, which is smack in the middle of the 17 songs. It's interesting because there wasn't a whole lot else I liked about it, so I guess one way of saying it is that I thought it was a little dull, and I didn't love the composition or the vocals, but I still found it pleasant. I wouldn't go out of my way for it, but it wasn't offensive to my senses. None of the songs this year were, but don't you worry, those are coming. And when we get there, I will make it very clear. Like Yugoslavia, this one also finished in a tie for 8th. The ESC Deservometer weighed the options and considered that it was 9th overall in impression, but lower than where the juries ranked it. Ultimately, based on that overall impression score being close enough, the meter determined that this song was placed about right. To 12th we go, and this is Louis Neefs for Belgium singing his Dutch language song, Ik heb zorgen, which means I have concerns. Well, I mean, I did have some concerns. I put it in 12th place. For the most part, I actually thought the song was okay. You'll notice that for most of the individual categories, its ranking wasn't bad. It would have finished in the top 10, but for that last one, composition and lyrics. Lyrically, I rated this song the worst in the contest. Give them a read through sometime. They're repetitive and not very good. If they had given me anything more, this would have gotten points from us. So it's time to consult the ESC Deservometer because we have a similar conundrum to the last song. It finished in 7th at the contest. We had it 12th, but 8th in impression, and it was decent in most categories. For the same reason, the meter is claiming that this song finished about where it should have, but is perhaps slightly overrated, and the same goes for Sweden. At 11th, just missing out on the top 10, we have Monaco. The song here by Manouche Borelli was Boom Bada Boom. I really don't think a translation is necessary. It's more onomatopoeia than anything else. Heading into this video, I knew this would be a source of disagreement in my earlier watches of the contest. While I was learning the history and getting a complete picture, I hated this song with a capital H. I did not get it. My views have moderated somewhat, as you can see in the individual category rankings. On the topic of those, they're very scattered, so let me explain my thinking here. I have a very complicated relationship with this song. I think it was very unique. I think it told a story about the specter of war cutting a life short before it's lived. However, I don't think it was well executed, and I did not like the vocals at all. At times, it was almost hard to listen to the droning. Let's be honest too, there were much better vocal performances. A song has to wow me to overcome that, and this did not. The concept was there, but I didn't like how it played out on stage, so that's how this ended up 11th. As for the contest itself, this song came in 5th, so what does the ESC Deservometer think? Despite being one of the most inventive songs of the 1967 showcase, it was a little bit overrated for the reasons stated. Time to move into the top 10, and the following will be receiving points at the end of the video. In 10th place, earning 1 point, was France. The artist was Noël Cordier, and the song was Il doit faire beau là-bas, meaning it must be nice there or it must be sunny there. A song from France about love, that never happens. The song itself was okay. She sang relatively well, and there was a hint of emotion in her performance that I noted and respected, but lyrically I just didn't think it was that strong. Also, as I just alluded to, even though the composition gave us a nice melody, it also treaded near other places we've gone, and it got a little dull in places. The song wasn't bad in any respect, but it needed a little more for me to push it higher. But what does the ESC Deservometer think? I think you already know, because the song finished in 3rd place in the contest. It gives me no pleasure to say that the song was a little bit overrated, because I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I think our score is fair. In 9th place, gaining 2 points for her country, that's Kirsty Sparbo of Norway. Her song was Dukeman or Dollman. Sparbo, of course, returning to Eurovision, having previously represented Norway in 1965. This one has an odd scoring profile as well if you check out the category rankings. We actually had this as our second least favorite song. She wasn't in the top 10 in the vocals. However, I thought this was one of the most engaging songs of the contest and lyrically one of the best. It told a story, and it was kind of a sad one actually, about doing as you are commanded. All that balances out to this song finishing 9th on our board. However, in 1967, this song did horribly. It came in a tie for 14th, just not very good. The ESC Deservometer had to work its magic. On the one hand, we gave it a low overall impression score, which tracks. On the other, we found that it actually had some redeeming qualities. Therefore, the meter has rated this song as deserving a little better. Not a lot, just a bit. To 8th we go, and I'm prepared for your hate mail because this goes to Luxembourg and Vicky Leandros' song L'amour est bleu, or Love is Blue. This was Vicky's first Eurovision appearance. She will be back 5 years later, and you will remember that one when we get to it. This song became somewhat popular across Europe after Eurovision. Later covers of it became bigger hits. There are people out there in Eurovision land who love this song. I don't think it's terrible, but I happen to think her second song was a lot better. This one kind of had a grating quality to it. The way she said certain words, yeah, it was the 60s. Lots of shit was annoying, but I don't think this song aged super well. On our category rankings for it, they were very consistent. 10th in impression and vocals, 9th in engagement and composition, but it ends up 8th. Go figure. You could see the glimmers of talent there, but this was not her best work. That was yet to come. What does the ESC Deservometer think of this song, which came in 4th? I wouldn't dare to say that it was overrated. It wasn't. But was it a little overrated? Yeah, probably was. I just didn't see this as top 5 material. In 7th place, getting 4 points from the Euroyard, it's the Irish entry. Sean Dunphy performed If I Could Choose. We gave Dunphy relatively high marks in certain categories, but our major takeaway? Boy, was this song boring. We had it tied for last in that area, engagement. It was quite dull, and I thought it was kind of played out. Nothing we hadn't heard before in this contest. However, he found his way to 7th on our score sheet for a few reasons. The song was pleasant, even if dull, and he sang pretty well. We had him in the top 5 in vocals. You know how much we love good vocals. In 1967, this song came in 2nd place. Ireland would have to wait 3 more years to win the contest for the first time. What did the ESC Deservo-meter think? It says that this song was a little overrated. A respectable effort, but a little too boring and not unique enough to be deserving of finishing as the runner-up. In 6th position, earning 5 points, it's Germany. The song was Anushka by Inge Brück. There's no translation as it's a proper name. We like the song in several ways, which is why it came in 6th for us. In fact, if it had better vocals, there's no telling how high we would have put it. However, the vocals were not it, and that was the only major blemish for Germany. Certainly enough to bump it out of our top 5. The German entry finished in a tie for 8th in the contest back in 1967, while we had it at 6th. It should therefore come as no surprise that the ESC Deservo-meter thinks this song finished about in the right position. Into the top 5 now and getting 6 points is Portugal, and the song was O Vento Mudou by Eduardo Nascimento. The song title translates to The Wind Changed. Now, in the 1966 contest, we had the first black female to perform, and in 1967, we had the first black male. Nascimento was born in Angola, a Portuguese-speaking country. The second thing you would notice if you listen to this Portuguese entry is that Nascimento had a really deep voice. This is because the first thing that you would notice is the intro to the song, and it was great. It just kept building and building until he started singing. I thought the song itself was really nice. We talked about uniqueness a few songs ago, and I think, yeah, the song did have an element of that which we had not heard from a few others. Now, back in those days, Portugal was screwed no matter what they said. It would take them until the 70s just to finish in the top 10, and their first and only top 5, well, it was the year they won in 2017. Yeah, however, we respected this song. The juries did not, putting it in a tie for 12th. On behalf of Portugal, the ESC Deservo-meter says this song deserved much better. It wasn't the best song of the night, but it did not earn being overlooked either, and overlooked it was. 4th place and 7 points go to Italy, Claudio Villa and his song Non andare più lontano, or Don't Go Any Further. Claudio appeared at Eurovision 5 years earlier. I did like his first song better, but I thought this was a good effort. More than the juries did, that's for sure, but we will address that shortly. Claudio did have some of the best vocals in the contest this year, which is part of the reason that he rose into 4th. This tracks with what we had for him in the 1962 contest as well. Where I think this went awry is that it was dull, and I struggled with the uniqueness. There were times that a performer as good as he was, who won Sanremo several times, can carry a song just on his own talents. It needed it. All he and Italy had for their troubles were 11th place in the contest. We've given the ESC Deservo-meter something to consider, and it says that Italy deserved a little better. We could have tolerated a low top 10 performance, but should it have been there? I think so. The bronze medal, 3rd place and 8 points go to Finland, and by far the best we've ever had for them. This song was performed by Freddie, a guy who is admittedly more famous for his second Eurovision song in the 70s, but this one, Varjon Swojan, or Shadow Shelter, was his better work in our view. If you know anything about Eurovision of its earlier years, you may have heard of the song Pump Pump, which he will perform years down the road. That was campy 70s stuff. Let me tell you what I liked about it. The first time I listened to it, I heard that powerful, slightly gravelly voice coming out of his mouth, and I'm like, holy shit, where did that come from? In terms of the technicals, he was projecting, he was enunciating, and he was going up there and getting those high notes. I came away thinking, this guy can sing. It was Finland in the 60s. They got no credit by the juries for anything ever, but he belted it out. This was not the most exciting composition, but Freddie's performance impressed me. As for the ESC Deservo-meter, it knows that Freddie came in 12th place in the contest, to which it says, screw that. Finland deserved much better in 1967. I'm glad he eventually got some recognition for his second song, even though I don't think it was as impressive. Just 2 countries left, and 2nd place is being awarded to Spain, and with it 10 points. Raphael, who also did well with us in 1966, came back with an even better song in 1967. That number is Hablemos del Amor, or Let's Talk About Love. I discovered in the prior contest that at the time, he was a talented young man, and those who are familiar with him would know that he went on to a very successful singing career. As of 2025, it was still going. In 1967, he made another very good impression. You don't notice how many singers don't emote in their songs until you watch 1,700 Eurovision songs multiple times. Sure, some, however, do. And that was and probably still is Raphael's gift. He puts a lot into it. Kind of like his contemporary from España, Julio Iglesias, who we will see 3 contests from now. Raphael is a very passionate singer, which is why you see this song second in engagement. We had him first in vocals this year, then second in overall impression, then fourth in composition. The song had a really nice flow and melody. Good job here by Raphael. El fuego, la pasión y el amor. Qué buena canción. Now back in English, we turn to the ESC Deservometer to ponder this song, which came in 6th in the contest. While we acknowledge that this is a good showing, we can't help but feel like this song deserved to contend for the win. We say it deserved a little better, and so it has done. But Spain, you'll finally get your win in 1968. The circumstances of it, well, we'll talk later. Finally, our top song of the 1967 contest, receiving our 12 points, was the British winning entry, Puppet on a String by Sandy Shaw. This was the first United Kingdom entry to win the contest, and frankly, it has stood up as one of the best British entries ever. That point is ironic because Shaw actually hated this song for a long time. In 1967, it got off to a bit of a rocky start because the mic wasn't potted up for the first big note, so she was belting it out, and on TV, you couldn't hear her. She got slightly screwed by a backstage issue, but from there on, however, it went quite well. This song had a jovial energy to it, going for a circus theme, and both the lyrics and the tone of the composition carried it all through and tied it all together. In terms of uniqueness, very much so. Back in this era of Eurovision, probably a majority of songs were ballads about love. This song was about love, but it was no slow and plodding ballad. I value uniqueness in a Eurovision song, but a song can be unique and bad. Trust me, we will see those. However, this was unique and good, so it was going to carry a long way. We have this song in first in everything but the vocals, where it was second. Without making a huge deal about it, the ESC Deservometer obviously agrees that this song finished in the correct position. It deserved to win. Those were all 17 songs in the lineup, so recapping the top 5 in each of our main scoring categories. Overall impression, just as we mentioned, the UK was our most enjoyed song, followed by Spain in second. Finland came in third, Germany was in fourth, and then in fifth we had a tie between Italy and Portugal. Keeping in mind that there was a stiff drop-off in engagement from fourth to fifth, here were those scores. The UK was in first, Spain and Germany tied for second. In fourth was Monaco's entry, and then a multinational tie for fifth, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, and Norway. Moving on to vocals, where we combined vocal quality with the technical aspects, Spain came in first, then Sandy Shaw and the UK were in second, tying with Italy for second place, followed by Finland in fourth and Ireland in fifth. In terms of composition and lyrics, the United Kingdom was first, followed by Finland in second, and then Monaco in third. Spain was in fourth, and then Norway's entry rounded out the top 5. We did have a few countries rotating in and out of these, which made it a very interesting year to total up the scores and see where the countries landed. Moving on to the end notes, I didn't hate this contest, but I didn't love it. There was one iconic song, some other good ones, and then a lot of filler. It's not until the next contest that we get to a personal favorite. This win by the UK set the stage for that, and the BBC is going to greatly advance the quality of the production for it. As mentioned before, Britain's winning song from 1967 is one of the best, might even be the best. There will be others, but this one still has cachet in the 2020s. The spinning mirrors on stage, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. They were very distracting. What you can say of this contest is that Shaw and the UK in 1967 continued the realignment of the contest, which began with Franz Gall in 1965. That was upbeat pop music, and Puppet on a String was upbeat pop music. Next year, I would say it did as well, depending on which country you think truly won, doesn't matter. And then moving forward, not every winning song is, but a good number of them are. By this point, Eurovision was moving in a pop direction, and you'll see which countries get with the times and which do not. As we always wrap up these videos, it's time to light up the all-time scoreboard. Check it out now on the screen. Italy's lead over the UK has narrowed to just 4 points. Switzerland has faded back into third, and then France and the Netherlands round out the new top 5. Every country that has participated in the contest to this point is on the board. Ireland is sitting there at the bottom with 9, but knowing what I know about how they will be doing in future entries, they have a lot of points heading their way. That is the Euro Yards wrap of the 1967 Eurovision Song Contest. Next stop is 1968 in the UK. For more on Eurovision history, check out the Euroyard.com and keep up with the latest on the contest on our social media accounts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.